Hi, you don't know me. My name is Sabrina Fernandes, I live in Brazil and I did my PhD in Sociology at Carleton University in Canada. I run this YouTube channel called Thesis 11 and this is the first time I'm doing a video directly in English, spoken in English. And it is because I have important information about what's going on here in Brazil and I want to keep my friends abroad informed as well. I'm going to run this quick opening sequence right now, but stay with me because what I have to say might make a difference in terms of international solidarity, and we need that. You've probably seen a lot of different headlines and articles in newspapers and magazines abroad discussing Brazil, right? And they were probably talking about this guy right here, Jair Bolsonaro. Well, he just got elected president of Brazil, and that is bad. And I mean bad, not Trump bad, really worse than Trump bad. Yes, that's possible. His supporters here say, no, he's not that bad, it's just the left crying wolf. In fact, they say that that was the case with Trump in the US, and Trump is actually so moderate. Really? They're calling this guy moderate? Kids in cages and let's go to war with half of the word moderate? Well, it's worse here, because what we're dealing with here is not simply a far-right guy who got elected spreading fake news and then calling every bad thing the media had on him fake news in order to spread chaos. That part is actually quite similar. The part about outrageous, disgusting statements is pretty similar too. But there's a but here, and that has to do with the current state of democracy here in Brazil and how Bolsonaro doesn't like it even a little bit. Not just because he had said a while back that he wouldn't recognize any electoral results that weren't favorable to him. I mean, that's very Trump-like too. The matter is that he has repeatedly said that he would only govern for his own supporters. More recently, he said that anyone who opposes him should either abide by his style of law and order or leave the country or go to jail. He's also made references to the military dictatorship in Brazil that wasn't that far ago, and about sending leftists and socialists to be tortured and killed. He's a huge apologist for torture. He hates human rights. He actually says that the mistake made by the military was to torture and not kill enough. When he voted for the impeachment of Dilma Rousseff, he paid reference to Ustra, a colonel known for torturing many people back then. And you know why he did that? Because Rousseff resisted against the dictatorship and was arrested and tortured in her youth. Bolsonaro is a threat to democracy, and maybe if you follow Brazilian politics, you might know that our democracy wasn't functioning that well in the first place. The arrest and conviction of former President Lula is full of flaws, so much that even the UN has spoken about it. The impeachment of Dilma Rousseff was done over technicality, and it was basically orchestrated to ensure that the president enforced a very strong austerity measure in Brazil, which Temer has done. Our judiciary too, holy shit, I mean, fake news flying all over the place, the majority of them propagated to smear the Workers' Party and its candidate, Fernando Haddad, and our Supreme Court basically just sat on it. People actually threatened one of our Supreme Court justices and she simply did nothing. Nothing. Meanwhile, people are dying. Violence has become a norm in these elections. Bolsonaro supporters have actually murdered people in his name, but you know what he said when confronted about it? Well, he said that he simply can't control everyone. Yep, he can't control everyone, but he sure as hell wants to facilitate their access to firearms. That's going to be just perfect. And yes, there was an attempt made against his life. Bolsonaro got stabbed by a guy during the campaign, and from what we can tell, this guy felt threatened by the hate speech promoted by Bolsonaro. There's a cycle of violence going on here because of his statements, and he doesn't plan on stopping it. As he had said in an old interview, the way to fix Brazil was through a civil war, perhaps killing some 30,000 people. And you know what worries me? He might actually say that he doesn't mean all that. Maybe I'm wrong and he's not a neo-fascist or proto-fascist or fascist or whatever. He's just an extreme guy with a flair for horrible statements. But the thing is that his supporters, they like this. I mean, the KKK came out in support of his candidacy. The KKK. Just a few days back, I was working on the Fernando Haddad campaign. He's not perfect, but he's democratic, so I was out in the streets trying to bring in the votes for Haddad, and then I heard this guy, a working class guy, yelling that he did prefer civil war. That made me really sad and worried and disgusted all at the same time. I felt empathy for the guy, because in a civil war, he'd be one of the first to suffer. The elites in Brazil hate poor people. Actually, the elites everywhere hate poor people. But yeah, Even so, lots of poor people came out to vote for Bolsonaro because they actually believed that he was sort of an outsider, that he would fix things, especially violence in the country, and of course the problem of corruption. The thing is that Bolsonaro himself is implicated in corruption, and that his plan to just help everyone get firearms and to give the Brazilian police a license to kill is nothing if not stupid. Our police already kills more than any other police force in the world. How has this helped? And how is it again that that poor person is going to benefit from accessing a gun when the rich guys can buy many of them and, well, use them in self-defense in a country full of racism? It's not an accident that the Black Lives Matter movement in the US identifies so much with the plight of black youth in Brazil, and Bolsonaro simply doesn't care. His plan is to do away with affirmative action programs, build more jails, sell our oil very cheap, and if possible, get rid of every single tree we have left in the Amazon. Apparently for him, the indigenous peoples and the traditional black communities are getting in the way of progress by hogging too much land. He's also talked about pulling out of the Paris Agreement, and he said that he plans on ending all activism in Brazil. And you know what's really worrisome? His vice president is so bad that sometimes we can't really tell which one is worse. He's a general. He said very bad things too, like implying that criminals and weirdos in Brazil should be blamed on households led by women. Oh yeah, that's really important. Misogyny is all over the Bolsonaro campaign. So much that women like myself have been denouncing this guy for years now, when most people just thought that he was a joke and that he would never get into power. Well, never underestimate what a charismatic leader with support from the military and very authoritarian traits can do by promoting the image of an internal or external threat. Oh wait, wrong picture. That's not Bolsonaro. That's Bolsonaro. In the beginning I said I wanted to give my friends abroad more info about this whole situation, but actually there's another reason for this too. That he's bad for the country, we already know. And we already know that the left-wing opposition needs to engage in a lot of self-critique to figure out how we got here, what mistakes were made, and what can be done right this time. But to do that, there has to be an opposition. And the problem is that this guy, well, he's not a fan of opposition. We can already tell that his government will be authoritarian. The question is how much? And how much of this authoritarianism will be matched by anti-leftism, anti-working class ideals, anti-human rights, and anti-political liberties. Political liberties, guys. It's absolutely necessary that we ensure this so that all of his statements about wiping out the opposition remain simply statements. Also because when he talks about wiping out the opposition, he doesn't mean just the socialists, since we know they just call anyone who won't support them socialists anyway. We know that because during the military dictatorship, they just called anyone who got in their way communist and did away with them. So it is of extreme importance that we find means to keep our political position alive, literally, and that we denounce all setbacks and any human rights violations. This is why we need you to. We need you to stand with Brazil for us to keep our solidarity channels open. We need Brazil's new president to know that the whole world is watching and that we won't allow our democracy to erode any further. Please let other people know about this, and I hope to have better news from Brazil at some point. Thanks for watching.